All right, we are recording, and yeah, so I guess this is our test segment for the Gridiron Grinder project. That's what we're going to call it because we already got a site for it. And we'll just start off by doing a quick intro. I'm Ryan, you're
I'm
James,
James.
and basically we're just going to be chilling, talking about football, and just two guys letting it flow. Just shooting the shit, hanging out, having a little bit of fun, and hey, we'll see where it goes. But yeah, I guess let's just jump into what you were talking about. So ESPN is doing their rankings of their top 10 of each position. You were saying.
Yeah, the top 10 of each position. I guess it's ranked by players and executives or whatever, which is some of the list is ridiculous, some of it's not.
Okay.
Like the quarterback list is ridiculous. There's no way Dak Prescott or Matt Stafford should be in the top 10.
Yeah, I know Prescott, man, he had a great year last year, but he's one of those guys you always wonder, is it how much of it is him and how much of it is, they got one of the better offensive lines and they got Zeke running the ball, so everybody's got to focus on him. And I get it, man, but yeah, it's he did have a great season statistically.
Yeah, he had a great season last year, but if you look without Zeke, he doesn't do anything.
Mm-hmm.
2 years ago when Zeke was suspended, that he was terrible.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, he struggled while he was out. All right, so I pulled up the website and I'm just trying to find it. Oh, here we go. Ranking the NFL's best wide receivers, blah, 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 blah. Yeah, let's check this out, man, because, this is one where it's always debatable. All right, so right now they've got the tight ends, the quarterbacks, the running backs. Well, they've got everything except for the offensive tackles, it looks like, on offense.
Yeah, something like that. I only went to like the skill positions. Really, I
Okay.
haven't looked at the other ones.
Yeah, so right off the bat here, it looks like they're showing the wide receivers. They got Julio Jones ahead of Mike Thomas. Man, Mike Thomas, he's just been a beast, it seems like, but, you know, okay. Here's the thing with both of these guys, I guess I'd like to see the stats, but, it seems like Julio Jones, for how good he is, he doesn't really score that many touchdowns, man. Like, you go
No,
back, you
he
think
doesn't
about,
at all.
yeah, you think about like, like older school guys like T.O., it seemed like every year they got double digit touchdowns. And it seems like Julio, it's the opposite. That's like the exception and not the rule.
Yeah, last year Julio had 6 touchdowns.
Yeah, man, for the top wide receiver in the league, you'd expect a lot more than that. But, I don't know. I mean, I guess, what was it for Mike Thomas? Because I know he put up a ton of catches and a ton of yards, but I don't think he got in the end zone that much either.
I think he did.
Was
I,
it? Yeah,
I,
but like, well, maybe he was like 9 or 10, but I don't think he was much more. I guess let's just check it out, man.
yeah, good call. Last year he had 9.
Nine's not bad. Nine's closer. Nine's a lot better than 6. It's 50% more.
Yeah, like, but I mean, he in 4 years has had 32 touchdowns, where Julio in what's Julio been in the league like 6 years now has two, three, four, five, 9 years. Julio's been in the league 9 years now, and he has 57 total.
Gotcha. Yeah, so he's like just a little over 6 a year is what he's averaging. Yeah, so and then it's like, okay, so they got DeAndre Hopkins at 3. See, he's one it's tough because like when I compare him to Julio Jones, Hopkins, it seems like every year scores no matter who he's got throwing him the ball, and it's been good the last couple of years. He's had Deshaun Watson hooking him up, but I don't know, man. To me, I put a premium on Hopkins over Julio Jones just because he could get it done for however many years with all those scrubs throwing him the ball, man.
Well, yeah, exactly. If he had Drew Brees throwing him the ball, or even Matt Ryan, how many more, how much better would he be?
Yeah, yeah,
But that's also why I'm excited about his year coming up this year, because I think Kyler Murray and the coaching staff there is going to be a lot better than the coaching staff in Houston.
well, yeah, and that offense is it's definitely going to be more wide open, throw the ball down the field kind of thing. Kingsbury, it seems like he's a little more creative, a little more modern than O'Brien. But
Yeah.
Houston. It's tough because Houston's actually done pretty good. It just it's like every year they're getting in the playoffs, they're just not making a run.
Well, that's because they have Bill O'Brien as their coach slash GM.
Yeah, he's the man who wears all hats nowadays, I guess.
Yeah, trading DeAndre Hopkins for a draft pick and worn down David Johnson.
Yeah, that was it was a bit aggressive, a bit too aggressive. Especially when you got Watson, man. You're like, hey, keep that pair together as long as you can. But I don't know. Who knows what he was thinking, and we'll see how it plays out. I thought that honestly, in my opinion, I don't think I would have done a move like that. But they brought in Brandon Cooks, which I think is, he's not on the same level as Hopkins by any means. But at least they brought in a guy who can be their one. Even if he's like a weak number one, he can get it done, and so that helps. They just basically they got to be hoping that David Johnson can still do something, which he hasn't in a while. So who knows?
Yeah, has in a while, but how much of him not doing anything is the fact that his coaches didn't use him properly? Like 2 years ago, he wasn't used properly.
Yeah, that's
They
true.
never gave him the ball.
Yep. Yeah, and then even last year, it was weird. It was like, is he hurt, or do they just not want him to play, or what's going on? And you know, there was a lot of weird stuff going on last season with him too. But either way, he didn't get it done. So yeah, so here they got Odell Beckham at 4. Man, I don't know about that. He just that guy's a head case to me, man. He seemed,
Yeah,
I know those first couple years with New York, man, he really lit it up. But these last couple years, he just has not been anywhere near the same player.
exactly. He's not even close to the same player that he was in New York. But I mean, he's got a lot of talent,
Mm-hmm.
but he's not on the field enough, or not on the field enough. Well, last year he was hurt, so he's coming off an injury. So this is strictly going into this upcoming season. It's hard to say have somebody that high who's coming off of an injury because you don't know what he's going to look like.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And they got Tyreek Hill at 5. I'm looking at these in easy pairs, just comparing them. And a few years ago, yeah, I would have said Odell Beckham for sure, the better receiver. But when I look at what they've put on tape the last couple of years, I'd go Tyreek Hill over Odell Beckham any day nowadays. I think Tyreek Hill, just every time I see him, he's wide open.
Yeah,
Part of that's probably that blazing 4.2 speed.
exactly.
And then they got Mike Evans at 6. That one, hey, I like Mike Evans, but, yeah, it was kind of strange last year that Chris Godwin kind of stole his thunder, came out of nowhere, and ended up really kind of being their number one guy, even though they both really put up number one stats, I guess. So I don't want to say that he wasn't the number one, but I like him, and I think and he scores a decent amount too. For me, if you're going to be a true number one, like I was saying, you got to be able to put some touchdowns up.
Yeah, but the thing with him is, I think he's more of a deep threat receiver, and you have to have a quarterback that can throw the ball deep
That's true.
to capitalize on it.
Yeah,
And
I'm interested to see how it plays out with Brady this year. It could be awesome. It could be a disaster, man. You remember the year Peyton won that last Super Bowl and retired. Man, as that season went on, it was like painful to watch how bad he was. And dude, he just got lucky that defense carried him. And I don't want to say the defense totally carried him because he made some plays, but it was like blatantly obvious that the arm strength was gone.
Yeah. From last year, it looked like with Brady, it looked like the arm strength was gone, but how much of that was his wide receivers didn't have the talent to get the separation?
Oh yeah, yeah. His wide receivers were horrible last year. So I think this will be. It's like a perfect landing spot for him. He's got two stud receivers, and they've got three feasible tight ends. We'll see how much Gronk has left in the tank, but I think it helps him that he took the year off. And OJ Howard, I think he's got the talent. It just hasn't fully come together yet. But then at number 3, you got Cameron Brate. That guy's been steady and solid this whole time. Dude, I think Cameron Brate, he's a tight end 1 on any other team.
Yeah, I heard OJ Howard was wanting a trade because when they signed Gronk.
There was some stuff going on about that, and I didn't know how much of it was him versus the team because it's like, how many of these guys are you going to pay at this one position? But I don't know. I mean, it looks, from everything I've seen and heard, it looks like they're going to run it with all 3 of those guys. Which, hey, I mean, that's sweet. More power to them, man. Rotate that trio.
Yeah, but I mean, for fantasy, that just kills the value of any of those guys.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. Yeah. For fantasy, Gronk will get drafted because he's Gronk. But yeah, the other guys, you can't draft them. You just got to wait and see what happens. But, it's like you go back and you think about, when the Patriots had Aaron Hernandez and Rob Gronkowski, man, that tandem was legit. I don't know if this is the same kind of tandem because, Cameron Brate's definitely not like a super huge receiver like Aaron Hernandez was. He's definitely capable. And then O.J. Howard, maybe a little more of a threat as a receiver. But, Aaron Hernandez, man, he just, for all the stuff going on in that guy's life, he actually seemed like a pretty good receiving tight end, man, for the time he was in the league. So, yeah, and then they got Devontae Adams at 7. I like him, even though he kind of burned me last year in fantasy. He seems like one of those guys that's going to be 1,000+ yards, 10+ touchdowns every year, and it's a good pairing with him and Rodgers.
Yeah, wasn't he hurt last year too?
He was, which I mean, I would never hold it against him. It's just that's my luck in fantasy. I go draft a wide receiver in the first round, and he ends up having a down year. But that's
okay.
That's a whole separate story, James.
2 years ago, I drafted David Johnson in the first round, so I have the same issues.
Yeah, you feel my pain, man. That was worse though. So then they got Keenan Allen at 8. Keenan Allen, he was steady for a long time with Phillip Rivers, but barely ever scored. I think this year he's going to fall hard because you got Tyrod Taylor throwing him the ball, which I like Tyrod Taylor, or I guess you got the rookie throwing him the ball, but they're not going to have the kind of passing volume that they had with Rivers. So, that's going to pinch him down.
Last year with Rivers could barely throw the ball as is. I'm surprised that he was signed by anyone.
Yeah, here's the thing. So, like Rivers, I think his biggest issue was all the turnovers. And, he's been streaky like that throughout his career, where he's like flirted with like really high interceptions and fumbles. And I think last year he still put up good yards, but yeah, he just let it rip too many times into double coverage and bad windows. And, it wasn't like Jameis Winston, but it was bad. And we'll see this year, him going to Indianapolis, man, it sucks that Andrew Luck retired because honestly, I like Frank Reich as a coach, and I felt like he kind of got burned with Luck retiring. It could affect him, and how long he'll be a head coach now because, if Rivers isn't legit, how many chances is he going to get to find a guy? But I think Rivers is at least going into a solid situation because Indy's got one of the better offensive lines, and so if you're an aging quarterback, you want to at least go somewhere they can protect you, and that can maybe help you make some better decisions with the ball,
True. Plus he's really familiar with Reich's offense.
Yeah, yeah.
So this off season won't be too bad for him with everything that's going on, not being able to really practice and and familiarize himself.
Oh yeah, and then I mean, looking at the weapons, it's not bad either. They got T.Y. Hilton obviously is legit. They're expecting Paris Campbell to step up this year. They drafted that rookie earlier on, or I think in the second round, and then at tight end, they got Jack Doyle, who's like not flashy, but he's solid. He's a good blocker. He's a good receiver. And they brought in Trey Burton, which if he gets over some of those injuries that were slowing him down last year, he's a good receiving tight end. And then really, man, the story that just I would focus more on is the running game. They brought in Jonathan Taylor. Dude, that guy was like the steal of the freaking running back class, in my opinion. Dude, they just run the ball, and they still got Marlon Mack, so they could just run the ball a ton and definitely like take the pressure off of Rivers, man.
True. Right. What concerns me though is with drafting Taylor. What does that say on the prospects for Mac
Oh, Mac,
and what's going on with him?
yeah, you go fantasy again, and it sucks. It's a committee deal, and I could have kept Mac this year for like a 12th round pick. He was one of my late round keeper options, which now I don't even for that late of a pick, I don't think I'm going to keep him just because I think Jonathan Taylor takes over and Mac becomes just like a complimentary piece. But we'll see. You never know. I mean, the guy, he's almost like a little bit of Devin Singletary in Buffalo last year, where when he flashes, it's great, but he also puts up so many negative yards that it's like, man, it's like a poor man's Barry Sanders a little bit, which, I don't like comparing anybody to Barry, but it's like, yeah, he'll have a sweet 15, 20-yard run, but then he'll have like two straight plays of -3 yards. And so
Yeah,
I think the team just kind of looked at it and they were like, he's not steady enough for us to have him be our full-time starter.
makes sense.
So yeah, now going down here, they got Godwin at number 9. I can't argue with it. He had a great year last year. I think it helps that they just frickin' passed nonstop. Jameis Winston, for all the turnovers, he does have a good arm. I mean, he threw for 5,000 yards, and so
Yeah.
I'm sure that helped elevate Godwin's stats a little bit to help him get him up here. And then they got Amari
Well,
Cooper at 10. I don't know, man. Amari Cooper's one of those guys. To me, like you go back to his days in Oakland where it's like, man, you really want a guy that you draft early to have long-term success with your team, and he just never seemed to get over the hump. And it was one of those things where it was like a necessary move to get him out of there so that you could basically, it's like as a team, it's like you're like let down in his performance, and so you got to move on, but you're also giving him a chance to realize, hey, it's not just going to be given to you. You go somewhere else. Now you got a little bit of a fire under your ass. You got to make it happen, and that's basically what's happened in Dallas, man. He's kind of like come back, but man, I don't know. I looked at the stats for him last year, and he had a handful of big games, but then he also had a handful of games where he basically disappeared, man. I think he had a game last year where he didn't even have a reception.
well, but how much of that was the quarterback there versus him?
I got you. So you
Because
like Cooper?
I like Cooper, but like if I remember correctly, there were a ton of games last year where Dak Prescott was ridiculously pathetic.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah. It helps to have a solid quarterback. And I don't know. I mean, Dak did put up the stats, but yeah, he's I don't know. He's debatable in my book. All right, so let's see. They got on the fringe here. They got Stephon Diggs. Hey, I like Diggs. He's been steady, but yeah, I wouldn't put him as like a top tenner necessarily. They got Adam Thielen, same kind of thing. They
Well,
got Kenny. they got Kenny Galladay here, which I kind of like. I think Galladay, man, I like him a lot, but then again, I'm a Lions fan, so I'm sure I'm biased. But
Yeah. The thing with Diggs though is what's his name? It's not. Is it Allen that's up in Buffalo? Yeah, Allen.
yeah, Josh Allen.
Like I think Allen's arm will help him out a lot because I don't think in Minnesota Cousins has as strong of an arm as Allen does
Oh
in
no, yeah,
in Buffalo, and Diggs is more of a stretch the field type
yeah,
receiver versus Thielen, who's more of a short and then power down the field
I
with the
got
ball.
you. I my only concern with him in Buffalo is just that, um, they pass even less than what Minnesota did last year with their run first approach. And then when they do pass, you're talking a wildly different quarterback. Like you're saying, the strong arm might work in his favor, but I think Josh Allen was less than 60% completion, and you got Cousins who was 70%. When I look at Diggs, he's one of those guys that it's like, he's trying to have a crisp route and get some separation, and you need a quarterback that can put him on him. Can Josh Allen be that guy, or is he going to be, lacking in the accuracy? And then I guess if that happens, we'll see how it plays out because Diggs jumped on Cousins last year when he wasn't getting the stats. So I
Yeah,
guess
true.
it's got to happen with Josh Allen, or we'll see what happens there. So then after Kenny Galladay, they got AJ Green, which hey, he I don't think he even played last year.
No,
Uh,
he was hurt. Like he had some sort of ankle injury all year,
yeah,
which I'm certain if he was traded last year, his ankle would have been all
he would
better.
have been fine. Yeah, one of
Like
those
if he
ones.
was if he was traded to New England, like it was rumored going to happen,
Mm,
his ankle all of a sudden would have been healed.
yeah,
But I just I don't know what to expect out of him coming into this year.
I know. Well, I had him in fantasy last year, and I just remember he was like doubtful or questionable almost every week, and it was like, yeah, he's not going to play, but I took a chance on him. It was like a mid or later round pick, so it was worth trying. But you know, he's one of those guys that when he was healthy, man, he was legit. He had like a freaking 10, 12 touchdowns every year, man. And like when I look at, you want a wide receiver one, that's the kind of guy you want. Somebody that's going to get you in the end zone, almost every week. That's the kind of game changer you need for the team. But yeah, does he still have it? I don't know. We'll find out if he can be healthy. I think he's in trouble either way because now he's going to have a rookie quarterback throwing to him with this weird offseason where they aren't really on the same page. And I think they franchised him, right? So I guess we have until Wednesday to find out if he even signs.
I don't think they franchised him. I thought he had a year left.
Here, I'm just going to check it up real quick because I'm pretty sure they franchised him. Which because it was a bad year for him to get hurt. It was like the last year of his contract, I thought. Um, Looks like Sports Illustrated saying, yeah, they franchise tagged him, 1 year deal,
Yeah.
set to make 18 million in 2020 if they can't reach a long-term extension. But I haven't heard much about if he's going to sign or not, so we'll see what happens. I mean, I don't know what choice he has. If he doesn't sign, I mean, the dude's coming off of a year that he missed. His prospects are down.
Yeah, and 20 million for the season is a lot better than probably what he would get on the open market. I mean,
Oh
look at
yeah,
Cam, like got $1 million.
yeah. Cam's deal, man. I tell you, I don't know. It's like I don't know if I respect it or if it's just that he basically got nervous and took what he thought he had to take because the injury thing. But like on the one hand, I'm like, hey, this guy's made a ton of money over his career, and he wants to be on a winning team, and he wants to get that ring. Why not take a low ball deal and get on potentially the best team with the best coach out there and see what happens? Or on the other hand, it's like, you know, There's no off-season workouts. There's no going in and doing a medical evaluation. And so basically, you took the deal that was out there, and I don't know. It's kind of like a 1 year prove it deal, basically.
Yeah, which from what I'm hearing, that's basically people are saying that he might not even start for New England this year.
Yeah, it's possible. Belichick was high on Stidham, so I mean, he could roll that way, and he could slow play it with Cam, see if he gets healthy, and he could always trade him mid-season. Belichick's like the wizard at doing that kind of stuff, man.
Yeah,
So yeah, the last guy they had on the fringe here was Cortland Sutton. Hey, he had a big year last year. He showed that he can play. I don't know if he's a top tenner yet, but after this season, he could make that push. I think it's going to be tough for him this year because, you got Drew Lock that, there's a lot of hype, but man, he's young. You got to see him take that next step.
yeah. Which it looked like towards the end of last year he was starting to take that step, but
Yeah.
now that he's coming in as the full-time starter, we'll see.
Oh yeah, and I worry with Denver, man. Their offensive line has been really shaky the last few years. Although I do like they brought in Graham Glasgow from Detroit. I thought that was a solid pickup in free agency, and I was actually really bummed the Lions let him walk. But and then I guess Denver drafted. I forget the guy's name, but they drafted a center that was solid, and so you add two pieces to that line. That could definitely be a bit of a game changer for that team. They've got a lot going for them, I think.
Yeah.
And they got Noah Fant at tight end. He's got some weapons. So, well, and they drafted Judy from Alabama. So, yeah, I mean, hey, Drew Lock, they put him in a good position to definitely step up. All right, where do you want to go, man? You want to look at tight ends? You want to look at quarterbacks? You want to look at running backs?
Let's go to quarterbacks.
Okay. Yeah, because you were getting hot there on Dak for a minute. All right, so quarterback, they got Mahomes at 1. I can't argue that. I mean,
Yeah,
Mahomes is, man, he has looked amazing, and he's been clutch. How many times has that team been behind, and he just like rallies hard in the fourth quarter? Russell Wilson at 2, I wouldn't argue that. I think when you get into 2, you start to wonder, because you're probably saying at this point, Breeze and Brady, yeah, maybe like from their legacy, you say they've proven more, obviously, but in terms of where they're at today, yeah, they've lost a little bit, and yeah. So Russell Wilson 2, I think that's legit. Aaron Rodgers at 3, I don't know, man. I don't like that one. What do you think?
yeah. I don't like that one either. I think it's a little bit high, especially since based on the draft, it looks like Green Bay's looking to move on from him.
Yeah.
So
There's definitely some drama there. I think
yeah,
that I don't know if they're just not meshing with him or what it is, but yeah, they're clearly they're looking for the next guy. Yeah, so with him, I don't know, man. Plus, it just seems like I get it. Last year, he stayed healthy, everything was fine, but they put the emphasis on the run game, which means there's something going on with him and LaFleur, and then the years before that, it seems like every year he has like some injury pops up and misses a handful of games. 5 years ago, 6 years ago, yeah, he was arguably the top quarterback in the league, but now I don't know, dude. He's like a fringe. I'd like say somewhere in the 5 to 10 range. I wouldn't put him at 3.
exactly. That's where I would have him 5, probably around like 7 or 8, actually, to be closer. Looking at the quarterbacks in the league.
Yeah, I mean, hey, he's got a ton of talent, but he's also, I think, on the backside, things aren't as good as they used to be.
Yeah. Plus all the over like the last he has to stay healthy, and last year he did pretty much. I think he did,
Yeah,
but the year before he broke his collarbone or something. Year before that he was hurt. He hasn't the last few years, like in the last 3 years, he's completed one full season.
yeah. All right, so let's see here. They've got Deshaun Watson at 4. Um, that's one that honestly I like it, but I bet a lot of people would say it's debatable because there's probably a lot of people that would say, oh, Lamar Jackson's got to be up here somewhere, and I would bet he's probably one of the next guys on the list. But in my opinion, I don't know, man. I like Watson. I think he's like the right blend of mobility and passing ability. I think Lamar Jackson, he's a little too much run first. And, we've seen in the past with guys like Vic that, that stuff will end up catching you at some point. And I think, Lamar Jackson is not the same as Vic. He's probably got a better arm in terms of accuracy and whatever. But, all it takes is one hit and you're going to lose him. He could get hurt and that's it.
Well, the thing with Watson is he's torn his ACL twice. He did in college, and then he did his rookie season. But I mean, and he has a terrible coach, and look at what he's doing.
Oh yeah, yeah, he performs. He's another one of those guys. Like when I look at those top couple people, Mahomes, Russell Wilson, they're guys that they can elevate the team. Like they're clutch when it matters. And it's a 180 with them or without them, and I'm fine with him in the top 5 because of that.
Yeah.
All right, so they got Breeze at 5. Whew, I better scroll down here. Okay. So Lamar Jackson's at 6. Okay, so he couldn't be far behind. I just, Lamar Jackson obviously gets a lot of hype from last season, and rightfully so. I just, I need to see him do more as a passer, and I think that. His passing stats, they got the benefit of his running ability kind of scaring defenses a little bit. And this year, I would bet we'll see an adjustment and he'll revert kind of back to something more regular.
Well, I think that last year they focused. He didn't run as much last year as he did his rookie season when he played like what was it, the last 8 games.
Yeah.
They were very heavily passed, and he's a very accurate passer.
Yeah.
And
that's where I'm saying he's definitely a different animal than Michael Vick was. But man, I just worry when you run the ball. He had however many 1,200 yards or whatever it was. As a quarterback, man, at some point you take a bad hit, and that's it's like almost like you don't want him running that much just because the risk of him getting hurt, and then it puts the team at jeopardy.
Well, but that's the thing about him is, from what I've seen of him, he seems never to take that huge hit.
Yeah,
he's able to avoid it.
You're right. Last year, yeah, he did a great job getting out of bounds and doing what he had to do to protect himself. And yeah, as long as he can keep that going. He could be a difference maker, man. And I mean, it's like, hey, we were talking about Cam Newton a little while ago. It's like you look at him, once again, a totally different animal. Cam is just a beast. He's so big. But, he's taken all these hits over the years, and it looks like it's starting to catch up to him.
Yeah.
All right, so they got Breeze at 5. Hey, man, I love Breeze. I was still going back to the San Diego days. I was blown away that they drafted Phillip Rivers and moved on, but I get it. They were scared of the shoulder injury, and I looked at his time there, and it was like every year was like boom, boom, boom. He just gradually got better, and I thought, wow, like that's the kind of guy you want to hang on to. But they were worried, and they made their move. And I mean, Rivers was good, but Breeze is on a different level than Rivers, I think.
Yeah, and with the shoulder injury, like even Miami was concerned about it because he would have been signed by Nick Saban, wanted him down there.
That's true. Yeah.
And think about it, if he would have signed in Miami, how much different that team would have been, how much better that team would have been, and would Saban have gone back to coaching in college?
Yeah, that's a pretty legit hypothetical, man. Of course, I don't think Saban's complaining. He's ended up in a good spot, but yeah, that would have changed the trajectory of a lot of teams, no doubt. All right, so you got Lamar at 6, you got Brady at 7. I like Brady, but man, we'll see. We'll see what kind of arm he's got this year. He's one of these guys where he takes care of his body really well, so he could have another good season in him. Like you said last year, you wonder how much of that was him, how much of that was just that he really had nobody to catch the ball.
Yeah, exactly.
And
And
now,
I
and
mean,
now he won't have any excuses. He's got five guys that can catch the ball. So, which is great. I mean, this is what we wanted to see. We wanted to see if he was ever going to leave, get him on a team, and let's see what he can do. And then, I don't know that you'll ever solve the Brady or Belichick, who made who and whatever else. I mean, to me, it just seems obvious it's Belichick because, it's more than just Brady. You look at last year, the defense was dynamite. Brady obviously had nothing to do with that, but either way, hey man, they both helped contribute to one heck of a dynasty.
well, plus with the it's not as much even if you take out the coaching aspect of it to be able to year after year after year field put a phenomenal team out there in it while the salary cap and the free agency everything's set up to
Oh
have
yeah,
parity across the league
yep,
and to have teams not dominate like that.
yeah, yeah. No, I think you can make the case. It's Belichick. I mean, Brady obviously is a key component, but Belichick, he's the architect behind it, and every year, man, he does some wild stuff and it works. He's like the kind of guy that's just like, I'm going to take some person that's on nobody's radar and I'm going to tell him, you just need to learn these five plays. And I'm going to fit you in the game and I'm going to basically, maximize your skill set for these five plays. And it ends up working. He gets all these random guys that become contributors to the team. But if they go anywhere else, they can't get it done because any other team would expect them to be like a full-time player, And so,
Yeah.
but yeah, man, hey, I love Belichick. He's legit, obviously, despite all the scandals. That shit, that's not cool. But I think he's a winner no matter what. All right, so we got Wentz at 8. What do you think about that one?
I think that's way too high for him. I think he's super talented, but
Yeah.
he can't stay healthy.
All right, so let's just look at this. All right, so they got Wentz, they got Dak, they got Stafford, and then from there you get into your fringe players. You got Matt Ryan, Ben Roethlisberger, Kyler Murray, Kirk Cousins, Jimmy Garoppolo, blah 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 blah. All right, so who do you put above Wentz? I know you like Matt Ryan.
Well, I probably would keep Wentz in the top 10. I probably wouldn't keep him at 8 though.
Yeah, yeah. I'm just saying, who do you put at 8? Instead of Wentz.
Oh, at 8, I definitely put Matt Ryan.
You go Matt Ryan. I probably do the same. I think Matt Ryan, he's been steady. He's smart. He doesn't have a rocket of an arm like you were talking earlier, Josh Allen, but the guy, he knows how to lead a receiver. He knows how to read a defense. He gets it done, man. And honestly, these last couple of years, I look at Atlanta, dude, their offensive line has like slowly fallen apart, man. And
Yeah,
he still gets it done regardless.
exactly. I looked up his stats earlier on that.
Yeah.
I mean, he's just like last year he had 4,500 freaking yards.
Oh yeah. Yeah. So the name on here that pops out to me, but it's basically just a wild card, is they got Big Ben in this fringe list. I mean, I would love to put Big Ben in the top 10, but we don't know where he's going to be coming off of this injury. But
Exactly.
obviously, if you go to 2018 Big Ben, yeah, it's like a no-brainer. He's a top 10 guy.
Yeah.
All right, so okay, so let's just say you put Matt Ryan at 8. Would you put Wentz at 9 then? Well, I guess
No,
let me ask you this: Do you have Dak or Stafford above Wentz?
neither.
Neither. Okay, so you got Wentz higher than those guys. What about these fringe guys? Would you put? I don't think you put any of these guys above Wentz. Kyler Murray looked great, but he's got to take another step, I think.
I
Same
think
with.
I would put Cousins above Wentz.
You'd put Cousins above Wentz?
Yeah. 'Cause, I mean, Cousins is just a super accurate passer.
Yeah,
I mean, he's like his career average is like 67%, but it's just been increasing every year basically.
that's true.
Last year he was 69%. And I mean, he still had in a run first offense, he still had almost 4,000 yards.
Yep.
I mean, 26 touchdowns and six interceptions. That's just accurate.
Yeah, that's true. I tell you, man, it's I'm looking at these names, and man, they've all got flaws, which is obviously why they're the fringe guys.
Right.
Uh,
The knock on Cousins is he hasn't really won the big game. He won the one big game,
yeah,
which was the playoff game last year at New Orleans. But outside of that, like a primetime game, he never won a playoff game before
yeah,
that.
yeah. The primetime record's pretty weak, but he's also been on some pretty crappy teams. So you know, and even Minnesota, man. Like I tell you what, they had that run with Case Keenum, and you knew it was just a fluke run, and then you looked at it when they brought in Cousins. To me, right off the bat, it was like, okay, you're spending all this money on a quarterback, but you have one of the worst offensive lines in the league, and they like barely did anything to address it until year two, and it's like, okay, so now they're getting better, and this year they should be even better, but it's like, you're going to put all that money into the guy. You got to protect him. I mean, how many times did Cousins get rushed, and he's still throwing 70 freaking percent, man. And I know that a
Yeah,
lot of that comes because they had a good run game and it opened up things for play action. But he faced a lot of pressure, and so a lot of that was mandatory. It had to happen, or it would have been a disaster for Minnesota.
exactly.
So yeah, then you're looking at Dak and Stafford, man, it's tough with those guys because I'm always down on Stafford. I just it's like I've been too close to it where I watch him every year. He throws the ball more than any other quarterback basically, and everybody's like, oh, he's got great stats. Well, yeah, if you're going to throw the ball more than anybody else, you should have great stats. But it's like you look at him at the end of the games. How many times have the Lions lost a lead and he just can't come back and get it done? To me, he's not a top 10 guy. I think he's a great quarterback, the best one we've had as long as I can remember, but he's not clutch and he's not really a difference maker. Dak, it's tough because, like we talked about, man, he's got a lot of guys around him. He's got a great offensive line. I don't know, man. But, like I said, I look at everybody on this fringe here, and they've all got issues. Like Garoppolo, holy crap, man. I was just reading the stats on Garoppolo in the Super Bowl just because, I'm just reading about this stuff. But, he was like 3 for 11 with an interception in the fourth quarter of the Super Bowl. I mean, it's just like,
Yeah.
dude. Oh, I mean, it's tough. I get it. It's a Super Bowl. It's a big game. But I remember when he came over from New England and he made comments that he thought he was better than Brady. You're going to say something like that? You better back it up when it counts. And when it counted, holy cow, he collapsed hard, man. I mean, some of those passes, I remember it was like, who are you even throwing to? There's nobody even there. And then the interceptions he had were just like so ugly. It just was, he melted down, man. He was not ready for that game.
Yeah. And like the thing with Stafford, looking at his stats, he basically has close to 600 attempts a season.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, 10 games, he 377, 103 games, 700 one year.
That's what I'm talking about. Yeah, you're going to have freaking 5,000 yards when you throw the ball more than anyone else in the league. Here's what I look at with Stafford. And I know that this is not a fair comparison. So many people tell me this, but it's in my mind, it's just something that I got to look at is, compare the volume that he throws compared to Drew Brees. Because there have been a number of years where Brees has been like right there with pass attempts, really high. Okay, the difference is Breeze gets the ball in the end zone. Stafford, I mean, you're talking 10 to 15 touchdowns less normally in a year than what Breeze is doing. If you're going to throw the ball that much, hey, that's great. But when you get into the end zone, when you get into the red zone, I mean, you better get the job done. Breeze does that. Stafford, I don't know. I mean, he's better than I'm giving him credit for right now. But that's just because I'm bitter. I want to see us win some playoff games.
Right, but and also to that point about the difference between Breeze and Stafford, you look up the completion percentage for the career. Breeze is almost 68%. Stafford's at like 62.
Yeah, I got you. All right, and hey, like I said, I'm probably being too hard on Stafford because it's the Lions. It's a shitty team, flat out. They've never had a run game, not since Barry. The offensive line is always suspect, even though they poured so much money into it the last couple of years. This year I'm really scared to see what happens with that offensive line. They brought in that guy from Philadelphia, which I like, but the guy's like been more of like a fringe starter, and now you're basically gonna have him come in and be a key cog on that line. You got Taylor Lewan, who's been patchy at best. He's had some good tape, he's had some ugly tape. Ragnow, I like him, man. He's one of those guys that, when we drafted him, I thought there was definitely other people that we should have went after, but I thought, hey, he's like a 10-plus year starter as long as we don't mess it up. But then the two guards we drafted that could potentially be starters this year versus some of these free agents that we got or whoever else on the team, man, this could be a really bad offensive line. I don't know.
Yeah, which doesn't bode well for Stafford, who's consistently hurt.
No, and it doesn't bode well for DeAndre Swift or Kerryon Johnson. Man, I tell you, going into the draft, so many people were hyping Kansas City taking DeAndre Swift. And I thought, holy cow, if they did that, to me, it looked like a match made in heaven. You got Mahomes doing little dump passes to him here and there. And I mean, just whatever. But, with the Lions, I thought, oh, we just killed that guy's career.
Yeah.
You talk about a waste of talent, man. The guy's going to come in here. There's going to be no lanes. And, Stafford's not exactly smooth with the check down, He's like, oh, I'm going to just fucking rocket it in. I don't care if you're 5 feet away from me, So
Yeah.
I think Swift is going to have to be like on a totally different level to succeed in Detroit, It's basically like put Swift in Dallas and he would make Zeke look like pathetic. That's how good he has to be in Detroit,
Yeah, exactly. But I've never liked Stafford, so
Yeah.
I don't know if it's just being too close. I hated the pick back when they made it.
Yeah.
So like 1 year I liked him and that was the year he broke his collarbone or whatever because of forcing himself back onto the field for the 2-point conversion after the touchdown.
Oh, are you talking about that Cleveland game?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I was there
And
for that game.
I thought for like a year or two that could like really get that locker room behind him, but it's too far removed now to.
Oh, for sure now, yeah. Yeah, no, there was a lot of hype back then, and the Jim Schwartz era. I mean, even that, man. I like Jim Schwartz on the Lions, but it was one of those things where, everybody had to realize he was, a younger, well, not necessarily younger, but a young head coach, and very rough around the edges. And I think a lot of people didn't really respect that, and they didn't have the patience for that. But he was a great defensive coordinator, obviously still is.
Yeah.
And I hope he gets another shot somewhere because I think he's legit, and he just needed to get that first bit of exposure. It's just unfortunate it was on the Lions. I mean, the Lions will kill anybody's career. I mean, look at what they did with Mariucci, man. I liked Mariucci, and that guy's never coming back. I mean, he's got a good gig now, but I thought Mariucci had a shot of being a great coach in the NFL, and we saw how that played out.
Yeah, it's the Lions. It's the curse of the Lions.
Yeah. All right. So going down a little further here, they got below the fringe. They've got Derek Carr, Ryan Tannehill, Jared Goff, Sam Darnold. I can't believe they have him on here. Out of those guys, who do you like? Who do you not like?
Oh, I don't like any of them. Maybe maybe Sam Darnold. I think he has a chance to be
To develop?
to develop into maybe top 15 quarterback.
Yeah,
But Derek Carr, I think that his shot's gone
yeah.
when he did broke his leg or whatever. He would have won the MVP that year. Was that like 2 years ago, 3 years ago? He would probably would have won the MVP that year, and it might have changed it completely changed his career because he got the big contract and he sucked since.
Yeah.
Ryan Tannehill, I think what he did last year was
Oh, it was fluky. But
yeah
here's the thing, man. I look at Tannehill and I don't know why I like Tannehill necessarily, but like going to his time in Miami, watching him play, he seemed like one of these guys that was like, if he just got in the right offense with the right coach, I felt like he could make it happen. I felt like he could be better than average. And so, like, somewhere in that 10 to 15 range, I would be solidly comfortable with him in my book. It just seemed to me like he could get you 4,000 plus yards, and it was like, and I felt like last year in Tennessee, it was like the first time we saw he got that right combination where he was on a run first team that would let him, take some pressure off of him. And I mean, you saw he had a rookie wide receiver that he was connecting with. Uh, you know, they got Corey Davis, who's been sort of a letdown at this point. But I don't know, man. I thought he made a lot of magic happen last year, and I like Tannehill, but I would never say he's a top 10 guy. I just think that I like him on the fringe list.
and Jared Goff, I think he's just dumber than shit.
Yeah, Goff, man, I have a hard time watching him because, you know, he has these moments where he seems so cocky, and then he has these moments where, like you're saying, he just kind of seems lost. And 2 years ago, Jared Goff, I thought, oh wow, this guy's like kind of under the radar, putting up some wicked stats. And then here we go last year. The run game's not there as much, and all of a sudden it's like Goff can't make it up without it. And so I thought, man, I don't know. I guess we'll see. I think, he's got the benefit of Sean McVay trying to come up with some crazy genius plans, which will help him. But I think this is a pivotal year for Goff, for sure.
Yeah, maybe this year he can figure out which direction the sun rises and sets at.
Yeah, so tell me how that one went down again.
I don't. It was on Hard Knocks. He was confused over the sun rising in the
Oh, it
east
was
and
on
setting in
Hard
the west
Knocks.
or something like that.
I vaguely remember something about that. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't remember exactly what it was, but it was like you got to be kidding me.
Yeah. Yeah. Bad form. Bad form. All right. Well, what are you thinking, man? You want to dig into the tight ends or the running backs, or you? I know at some point you got to eat. What are you thinking? You want to pick it up later, or you want to? What do you want to do, man?
Yeah, we can pick it up later. I gotta order food to eat. The wife's kind of standing here looking at me like I want to eat.
Well, she's hungry, man.
Yeah, she's hungry.
It's you're in a committed marital relationship, and you got to take care of your woman. So I get it. All right. So what are you thinking? Do you want to just like pick this up again one day next week, or do you want to try and do something later tonight, or we could if you're just chilling later, we could do some Tiger action. We could or we could just pick another night and go back at it later.
We could pick it up next week, play some Tiger.
Okay. Well, cool. All right. Well, hey, I think this was fun. And, like I said, we'll see how this test video works out in terms of the video and the audio when I play it back. But, we're doing this thing raw, man. I'm not going to be editing anything. It's just all about let's just get it out there and have a little bit of fun chit-chatting and see how it goes. And, there is for sure nobody watching. But if they do, I guess we'll say thank you. And,
Yeah.
hopefully it's a little bit entertaining. If it's not, oh well, that's not really the point of it. But I'm having fun, and that's all that matters.
Exactly.
All right, cool. Well, hey James, it was good catching up, man. I hope you guys have a good night, and I'll talk to you later on, man.
All right, sounds good.
All right, see ya.
See ya.